right, as your final test to show me what you have really discovered about photo retouching, you have this final file. Basically, we're going to show a before and after. So first thing you have to do is make sure on your layers panel you are on the top layer. I'll turn that eyeball off so we know that's the one on the right, or the after version of this photo. And what I'm going to do first is zoom in a little bit. Okay, the whole idea with this is all this damage up here. Okay, so here's the trick. The whole left side of her head is fine. It's the right side that's messed up. And luckily, her head basically was looking right at the camera. She's kind of looking off to the left, but her head is facing right towards us. So I'm going to go up here to my lasso tool, and starting above the photo, I'm going to click and drag down and select all the good left side of this photo, all the way back up and all the way back to the start. Okay, one big loop around this whole clean area. And all I'm going to have to do is duplicate that area by hitting Command J. You can see on my layers I have an extra copy. If I switch to my move tool, I can move that copy. So what I want to do is flip this to the other side of her head. Okay, so I'll just move it over, go to Edit, Transform, and Flip Horizontal. So now I've flipped it to the opposite side of her head. Okay, the problem is, how do I get it to line up? Because that just looks freakishly weird. So on my layers panel, next to your blending modes is your opacity, and I'm going to lower the opacity to about 60%. And that's going to create kind of a ghosted image right here. The reason why I want that ghosted image is I'm going to take the center of her eyeball and put it right over the center of that eye, so those two eyes line up. Okay, the rest of it is off, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit Command T to transform. And I have this center point. Okay, if you don't see that center point, on the upper left corner of the keyboard, I'm going to hit my Escape key. And then I need to go to Photoshop, Preferences, General. And I want to find that preference. So let's go to... where is it here? There we go. Tools, Preference. And right there, Show Reference Point when using Transform. You want to make sure that is on. So now when I click OK, and I hit Command T again to transform, I have the center point. So I'm just going to move that center point right into the center of her eye. So now we're going to rotate it from that eyeball that we lined up. So if I go way outside, I get a bent arrow, and I can rotate her head like this to line up with her jawline and her hairline and her nose and her mouth. Pretty much everything is coming back into alignment. I can kind of move it around just a little bit more like that. But that's going to be pretty good. I'm going to hit Return. That will accept the transformation. And if you need to, you can zoom in like this. I can take my move tool and move her eye over a little bit more right in there. So that is a good lineup. I'll take my zoom tool and zoom back out a little bit. And you can't forget to turn your opacity over here on your layers panel back up to 100%. Now you can see right here, we've pretty much erased all that damage, but her face looks really weird. And obviously the corners aren't working. So here's what you need to do. Okay, on this top layer, I'm going to come down to the bottom of my layers panel. Again, the third button from the left is Add Layer Mask. So I'm going to click that. Anytime you add a layer mask, it is D for default colors. X to switch to black. And the problem is I don't want to paint way out here because I want to keep that information. Okay, so what I'm going to do is come down to layer 1 where I made a copy of the photo, and I'm going to command click on the layer thumbnail. That will put a selection around my photo. Okay, first I'm selecting what's in the photo. I have to erase this junk outside, so I'm going to go to Select menu, Inverse, and now right up here on my layer mask, I'm going to take my paintbrush. I can hold Control key and Option key, make the brush a little bigger, and I will paint with black. I'm going to scrape off that edge there, scrape off the side right there. See, I'm painting outside my photo. And now I need to edit what's inside. So I'm going to go to Select menu again and Inverse. And now I only have what's inside. So now with a soft edge brush again, I can click and drag and edit some of this area out right there. Just enough so I can see a little curl coming out. I can hit X for white if I painted too much and paint a little bit of her hair back on right there. That looks good. Okay, and that looks pretty good right there. I like what's going on. Okay, the main trick though is I have to come back over to the left side, the photograph. Once I've kind of blended out the center with a soft brush, I come back over to this side, and I need to photo retouch the rest of this corner. So I'm going to switch to my clone stamp. I can hold Control and Option, go with a little bit bigger brush. And the wall starts light and it gets slightly darker and darker as it goes up. So what that's telling me is I need to photo retouch side to side. So I'm going to Option click right here. Then I'm going to come over and paint a little bit, and it's getting lighter and lighter as I go, or I'm sorry, darker and darker as I go up. I started light and slightly getting darker. Now I'm kind of running out of room here, so I'm going to Option click again, paint a little bit more right there. Option click, paint a little bit more. Option click, and then I'll paint a little bit more off to the side like that. Option click, and I'll paint out the rest. Option click, and I'll paint up into that corner. Okay, when I'm done, I got to hit Command D to deselect. And we've essentially blended this upper right corner right back into the photo on our layout. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to take this top layer and make it part of the layer below. So on the top layer, I click the pop-up menu. Oops, and I got to move this out so you can see that in my video here. Click the pop-up and merge down. Okay, that is now a permanent part of that face. The problem though is when I zoom in, I can still see this yellow stain on this side of her forehead, and I see a yellow stain on her cheek. So what I'm going to do for those is go back to my clone stamp, and in order to deal with color stains in a photo, you have a blending mode right up here for the clone stamp. I'm going to click that and come all the way down to deal with color stains on a photo. Okay, so now I can Option click the color over here. Doesn't matter what value. Come over to the right and paint over that color stain. Because it's not picking up the details of the hair. It's picking up the colors. So I don't mess up my photo. Okay, I can Option click her cheek, then paint over that stain right there and get rid of that. But at least I don't have those yellow stains in my photo anymore. Okay, the only thing you got to remember is once you are done using color mode, click that and scroll all the way back up, back to normal mode. Now the only thing left is to get rid of this little damage like scratches and little spots. So right above my clone stamp is my spot healing brush. Literally for spots on a photo. I can click and drag right there. Drag, 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 click, 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 click. And try to get rid of some of this damage of these little spots all over the photo. Okay, there's one right above her eye, so I'm going to zoom in real close. Take my spot healing brush and hold Control and Option. I'll just come in with a small brush tip just to get in that upper eyelid area right there. I can hold Control and Option, make it a little bigger again. Go to my zoom tool and drag to the left. And the only other spots I really want to look at is right down here on her outfit. So again, spot healing brush for large, simple spaces. You can just click and drag over that. But notice right here, got a couple of little bright spots on the stripes in her shirt. Got a couple of bright spots right here. When they're in a tight little space like that, you want to go back to your clone stamp. All I have to do is hold Control and Option, go with a really small brush, because I'm in a tight space. I Option click above, then I paint down below. Option click above, paint below, or I can Option click below, paint above. Whatever you want to do. If that comes out too dark, Option click above, paint down below. Option click below, paint above, Option click above, and then paint below. I'll set that up. There we go. Option click above, paint over a spot right there. And I just zoom in and inspect the end results. There's another spot. So Option click above, paint over the spot below. And that's going to look pretty darn clean. Okay, I see a couple of spots on the wall here. So I'll just go back to my spot healing brush and just touch up a few spots like that. There's kind of a rough patch where I kind of missed the corner when I was doing my layer mask. So I'll just take my clone stamp again. Option click the clean area, paint over that area just to smooth that out a little more. And it's looking pretty good. Okay, the only other thing I want to fix is the color. This is an old yellowed kind of photo. So I'm going to go to Image menu, Adjustments, and I'm going to go to Hue and Saturation. The reason for this is right down here, I can click Colorize. And the default colorization method is red. Okay, so what I want to do to keep that traditional old-fashioned look, you don't want to saturate or desaturate completely because you get a very dull, lifeless kind of gray, almost like a metallic gray. What I do is I set my hue slider a little bit to the right till I get kind of a reddish brown, and then I slowly desaturate the photo to the left until I get a nice warm tone gray. A little bit less. Okay, a warm tone gray has a little more life to it than a lifeless, dull machine gray. And this looks pretty good. I can click OK. If there's any values I want to edit, you'll notice right up here, this side of her forehead is looking really dark. And that's because we did copy it from the opposite side. So I want to lighten this up just a little bit. Okay, right above my type tool, I have a dodge tool. Your dodge tool makes areas brighter, kind of like this. You can see how it's all getting brighter and brighter and brighter. Okay, so I'll go to Edit and undo that. I just need a little bit of brightness here, but the problem is the exposure setting is cranked up to 50%. That's not too weak and it's not too strong. What I would always recommend is you set your exposure way down to about 10%. Otherwise, this tool is going to work way too strong and you're going to end up ruining your photo. So all I have to do now is put a brush, maybe a little bit bigger. I'll go right here at the start of the damage. I'll go 10%, 20, 30, 40, 50, and I slowly lighten that up. 10, 20, 30, and just gradually lighten up this face. The whole point of photo retouching is I don't really want you to know that I retouched this photo. So if I can blend all this out seamlessly, I did a good job. Okay, the only other thing I'm going to look at is maybe adjusting a few more values, and that can be done right up here. Image menu, adjustments, levels. Okay, let's get that back in the window here. I am missing a few little highlights over here, so I can pull this to the left. You can see what that does if I pull it too far. So I'm going to pull it right to that little mountain range, and that just brightens up my photo a little bit. Pull the midtones to the left a little bit and pull my shadows back to the right, just to give my photo a little more tone and contrast. And I click OK. And that is how you retouch an old photo. So if you're doing this for my class, save it as a JPEG with your last name, your first name, and you can put a number or just call this school retouch. But that's how you do old vintage photos. Thanks for watching.